What is going on, boys? Welcome back to the pod. Welcome to season 2 of Dub's Corner, the only corner where we are selling statistics and knowledge and not dope and pussy. What is going on, boys? It's been a couple of months. I am super ready for football season. We've got basketball, baseball to talk about. Today we're going to be talking about the draft. We're going to go in alphabetical order. A lot of teams seem to be on track. Some teams just seem to be absolutely delusional to what it takes to win a Lombardi, or questioning even if they want to win one at all. With that being said, we're going to start with the Arizona Cardinals. Now they go 2 offensive linemen in the 2nd and 7th. Now they're going to need that. No Kyler Murray. He is a Minnesota Viking. They go Jeremiah Love, Notre Dame running back, which I think he is a solid running back. Now what he's going to do at the next level, I have no idea. Carson Beck. Now I got a love-hate relationship with this motherfucker. I feel like I'm going to be having conversations with him forever. I mean, his entire career. I think he's just one of those little cockroaches. He ain't ever going to go away. I think it's a good pickup. It looks like that's who they're going to be running with. Caleb Proctor, defensive tackle out of Alabama. A lot of sleepers on that Bama team, despite the problems that they did have over the last 2 years. And then Reggie Virgil, the receiver out of Texas Tech. I think that was a high-flying offense they had. He's a downfield threat. A lot of those guys off of the Red Raiders, I think, are going to shock some people. And that with Baron Morton as well, but we'll get there. I gave them a B. I mean, I think it's just too many questions for the Cardinals. And what if everybody's going to work out, what they have going on. Now, they still do have Marvin Harrison Jr., but he's been having some issues. So, with that being said, next we're going to go to the Atlanta Falcons. Now, I have denounced my fandom to the Falcons. I am not a Falcons fan. Looking at, been rocking with the Jets the last 2-3 years. I mean, I think it'll work out. Falcons had no first-round picks. They do go Avion Terrell, the brother of AJ, who already plays in Atlanta. It was a nice little moment. They go Zachariah Branch, who took a fall because he was arrested. We're not getting into politics and shit, and that is the cat. I think it's an absolute steal for the draft, honestly. Him and Bijan, I think nobody's getting tackled for the Falcons. I think their offense is an absolute problem. They still do not have a quarterback. Kendall Daniels, Oklahoma linebacker, and Harold Perkins Jr., LSU linebacker. They go 2 SEC linebackers. Now there's going to be a lot of, partly because there are bigger conferences, they have kind of married everything together. There's going to be a trend but SEC defenses are just different. They go 2 Big Ten linemen, D and offensive, in the 6th and 7th. I'll give them an A-. They still do not have, a quarterback for real. So for the long future, I do not think Penix is it. So A- for the Falcons. I think they can win. Some of these guys are going to get some playing time off of it. Next, we got the Baltimore Ravens. They had 11 picks, and they used 7 of them to go offense. They go 2 guards, 2 receivers, a tight end, and a running back. They went Elijah Surratt out of Indiana and Adam Randall, running back out of Clemson. Now, Adam Randall is definitely the Ravens brand because he did have a fumble problem in Clemson. Now, jokes aside, I do think there's a lot of potential there. He's a good sized running back. He's with some absolute legends, Lamar, Derrick Henry. I mean, they're doing phenomenal. Um, they also take Jacoby Lane, 6'4", 200-pound receiver out of USC, an absolute problem. They need a wide receiver. They picked two, a national champion and a guy who is just he's coming from a school who just pumps out wide receivers at the moment. And then Zion Young, edge out of Missouri, 6'6", 260-pound run stopper. I mean, that says what it says on the defense that's already decent. So I gave them a B+. I think the Ravens are already very good. I think they didn't really need much out of this draft. They need to stay healthy, and they need to hang on to the football. That is all I can say about the Ravens. Same thing here, Buffalo Bills. They had no first-round picks. I don't think they really needed much other than an offensive line. They did go linemen in the 4th and 7th, but they went Skylar Bell, wide receiver out of UConn, 5'11", 192 pounds. Strong, versatile receiver. I mean, he just for his size, he plays like a big receiver. They also went T.J. Parker, Clemson edge. I mean, and they got him in the 2nd round. I think he easily could have gone in the 1st. A lot of good defensive linemen in this draft for real, at least size and speed-wise. They're just athletic. Jalen Kilgore, safety out of South Carolina. I think the DBs and secondary coming out of South Carolina this year and next year are very good. They are a problem. I gave them a B. I think they need offensive linemen. I think they need the same thing as the Ravens to hold on to the football, and they needed a receiver. They need Keon Coleman to step up. They just need everybody to do their job. They have maybe the best running back in the league, arguably, in James Cook. So I think this offense and defense just needs to play exactly what they did last year, except not have Josh Allen have 5 turnovers in a playoff game. I mean, just like the Ravens, they shot themselves in the foot. So next, we have the Carolina Panthers, who had one of my favorite drafts in the entire draft. I think. So they went offensive tackle, Monroe Freeling out of Georgia. Only 17 starts on a banged-up UGA offensive line. I mean, Georgia has absolutely been through hell when it comes to offensive linemen, but they're, 6'5", 6'6", 335+ pounds, all of them. So, those guys tend to get, foot problems. Like, they just get hurt. So, but I think he's a great pickup. Lee Hunter, defensive tackle out of Texas Tech, the #1 rush defense in the nation, I believe, last year. I think it's a great pickup. Add to the defense who is already. They shocked a lot of people making the playoffs last year, and they were up. They did blow a lead, but I mean, they figured a lot of shit out last year. They also get Chris Brazzell, the 2nd wide receiver out of Tennessee, who ate some SEC defenses secondaries up this past year with a young quarterback in Aguilar, but 6'4", 190 pound. He's gonna be Tet's best friend. So I mean, opposite of Ted McMillan, it's gonna be Brazzell. If he can figure it out, then I think it's gonna be an absolute problem. And then Will Lee, Texas A&M. I mean, dude is 6'1", 189. It's a great secondary already. I believe it's not gonna do anything but add more depth. I mean, I just think I gave him an A. I think with them having the running back position kind of locked up, figuring some stuff out last year, if Bryce Young can get it done, I think this is going to be an absolute problem of a team in a division that is, up for grabs. Absolutely up for grabs. Next, I have the Bears, who I gave an A minus. I think their round one pick in safety out of Oregon was great. He's another fantastic light. A fast, hard-hitting playmaker. Some of the plays he made in Oregon are in some of their biggest games. They go Logan Jones, center out of Iowa. Iowa just pumps out offensive linemen. You can't, just always a good bet to take. They go tight end out of Stanford, 6'6", blocker. And not really, they all don't really need any receiving tight ends. They got McDonald and they got Komet. They're doing all right. On top of Xavion Thomas, LSU receiver, 4.28 40-yard dash. I mean, a good gadget guy, a good returner. I think he'll be. That offense is so inventive. They'll figure out a way to use this guy. But after the third round, I didn't really see too much. But they did go another tight end, which it's confusing, but you got to think this team fought for their life. They had a great playoffs, young team. They figured some stuff out. It's just another year. They'll try it out. One of the best teams Chicago's seen in an absolute long time. Maybe 15 years. Bengals lose Henderson. Had no first round draft picks. They did get Cassius Howell in the second round, that edge out of Texas A&M that had the viral video of him just standing. I mean, he's a big dude. He's a big dude. He was second in the SEC with 11.5 sacks. They also went Connor Lew and Colby Young, receiver out of Georgia, coming off injury, 6'4", 218 pounds. I think Colby Young, barring his injury just being debilitating to him in any way, I think Colby Young is a steal in the fourth round with an already good receiving room. I think it's going to be a good problem to have offensively. They drafted 2 centers, which don't really understand that with the problems they had on defense last year. They were banged up on offense, so you can't really say much. Next, we have the Cleveland Browns, who had 10 picks and only used 2 of them on defense. They are absolutely loading up this offensive anything to try and figure it out. Maybe for Shador, maybe for who, anything. They go 3 offensive linemen, 2 receivers, 2 tight ends, and a quarterback. But they go Spencer Fano, offensive tackle out of Utah, 6'5", 311. He ran a 4.9 140 at 6'5", 300 pounds. It was the second fastest as an offensive lineman. They go Casey Concepcion, wide receiver out of Texas A&M, who was an absolute problem all year long. Great receiver room coming out of there too. They go Denzel Boston, receiver out of Washington, big, hard runner. Didn't run a 40. Not too fast anyways in game, but 6'3", 212. You're going to be able to catch some footballs in the NFL. They go offensive tackle out of Florida, Austin Barber, Parker Bransfield, center out of Bama, Justin Jefferson, linebacker out of Alabama, and they go Taylon Green, quarterback out of Arkansas, which, everybody's kind of fascinated over this Taylon Green kid. Obviously, he came from a high-powered offense in Arkansas, but the kid is a turnover problem. If they figure that out, then maybe, but his running back got drafted as well, and I don't really understand why they had too many turnover problems. It was a good offense. So, if Taylor can figure out how to not turn over the ball, he might come for somebody's job in Cleveland, but I think he got drafted in the 6th round for a reason. He's just there maybe for a scout guy, practice team guy. He's an athlete. He can get plugged in places. So, Dallas Cowboys. I did give the Browns an A-. Let's start there. I did give the Browns an A-. The Dallas Cowboys, 5 of 7 picks on defense. They go Caleb Downs, safety out of Ohio State. Just a great player. Malachi Lawrence, edge out of USC, 6'4", 250. Ran a 4.5. That's ridiculous. Speed rusher, 20 sacks in college. They went Jayshon Barham, edge out of Michigan, which is a phenomenal pickup. I watched some of his tape. He is always in the backfield. He can play linebacker. He's a little bit slimmer, 6'3", 240, a little slimmer. But he can slide back and go back in coverage. They go cornerback Devin Moore out of Florida. Good ball hawk, ran a 4.5, not the fastest for a cornerback. And then they go LT Overton out of Alabama. Quick guy. The third edge they picked up, one of these guys has got to hit. They are obviously trying to plug in a hole in with the trade that they made for Michael Parsons to Green Bay last year. So I gave them an A. I think their offense is high-powered enough. They don't need anything absolutely at all on offense. Everybody also just needs to do their job. So I think if they can get the defense figured out, the Dallas Cowboys might actually win a playoff game. With that being said, Denver Broncos, who I think 100% could have been in the Super Bowl, barring the phantom ankle break of Bo Nix. I just don't. I have no answers for that. It's such a freak thing. But they have no first or second round picks. In the third and fourth, they did go Jonah Coleman, running back out of Washington. They do have R.J. Harvey and J.K. Dobbins already. I don't see him taking either one of their jobs unless J.K. also gets hurt again, because he is prone to do that. They go Tyler Onadium, defensive tackle out of Texas A&M, expected to kind of fight for the starter job off rip on a defense that is was one of the top defenses in the league last year. They go tight end out of NC State, 6'3", 240. Receiving threat, too, I think, with also go Dalen Bradley, Utah receivers, 6'4", 253, who is a blocker. So they were really trying to fill in this tight end spot, because I'm trying to think of his name. Noah Fant. He's not doing what they needed. With that, I gave him an A. I mean, I think this team could have been in the Super Bowl easily and could have put up a fight against the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. So, next I have the Detroit Lions. I gave them a B. They go offensive tackle out of Clemson and Blake Miller, 6'6", 317, 2-time All-ACC, average run blocker, good pass blocker. They go Derek Moore, edge out of Michigan, and Jimmy Rolder, linebacker out of Michigan. Both of them staying in state. A Michigan defense that was pretty good, barring barring injury, the offense had Bryce Underwood, just super young. So I think it's a good pickup. They had a very good offense last season. One of my favorite to watch. They have a very good running back in Jahmyr Gibbs as well. And I just think if they can get the defense together and maybe stop the team from scoring, and their offense does exactly what they did last year, they'll be a problem. The fact that they missed the playoffs last year was a shock to me, anyways. I gave them a B. Green Bay Packers next, who I gave a C. I don't really understand much of theirs. They need a receiver. They need a playmaker. They go Brandon Cease, cornerback out of South Carolina. Very good is that Carolina secondary, like I mentioned. Chris McClellan, defensive tackle out of Mizzou. That Missouri defense gave people some problems. Had a lot of questions on defense. They had a lot of questions on offense. Their quarterback got hurt midway through the year. They go Danny Dennis Sutton, edge out of Penn State, 6'6", 256 pounds. Strip king. I watch his tape every time he's making a tackle. His ball is out. 8.5 sacks in 24 and 25. And they go Damani Jackson, good press cornerback out of Alabama, 6'1", good size. Green Bay is pretty good when it comes to cornerbacks and anybody in the secondary. They really know how to figure some shit out there. But I just don't understand a lot of no receivers. So I gave him a C. One of the only lower receiver, or only one of the lower grades I gave any of the teams. I thought everybody, speaking of another terrible draft, I have the Houston Texans, who definitely figured some shit out in the second half of the season last year. They went Kalen Rutledge, offensive guard out of Georgia Tech. Caden McDonald, offensive tackle, or defensive tackle out of Ohio State. Marlon Klein, 6'6", 240-pound tight end out of Michigan. Maybe trying to replace Dalton Schultz. He just hasn't been very productive. Indiana Colts, man. The Indiana Colts, I gave them an A-. I think they still need a quarterback. But they went C.J. Allen, linebacker out of Georgia. Roquan Smith, part freaking 2, dude. He is a phenomenal middle linebacker. He is a problem. He is going to run. This defense is already very good. Made a trade, get Sauce Gardner last year. I think he will be fit right in the NFL. They go A.J. Harvey, safety out of LSU, 215-pound safety, had 89 tackles last year. Jalen Farmer, offensive guard out of Kentucky, 6'5", 312. Bryce Bocher, a linebacker out of Bocher out of Oregon, and Deion Burks, wide receiver out of Oklahoma. Undersized, but an absolute playmaker. I don't understand why he slid all the way to the 7th. He was and earlier in the year last year, he was really giving people some problems. That offense had some problems with Mateer being injured, so he really didn't get a fair shot when it comes to some. But next I have the Jacksonville Jaguars, who also were a problem last year, but they had no first rounders. They have Nate Bowenkircher, tight end out of Texas A&M, blocker. Don't really need one, and picked up Tanner Koziel, tight end out of Houston, 6'6", 240, is a receiving problem. Three-time All-MAC, 74 receptions in 2025 alone. Manzor Delane, cornerback LSU, was the Kansas City first-round pick. Peter Woods, defensive tackle out of Clemson. R. Mason Thompson, edge out of Oklahoma. First and second all SEC pass rusher for Jaden Kanade Kennedy. I still don't know how to pronounce this kid's name, even after. Oklahoma slot cornerback, safety, and nickel. The kid is just kind of a play everywhere, plug and play. And then Garrett Nussmeier, who had 3 offensive coordinators in 5 years. He's coming off of injury. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is a quarterback here, but I think with Patricio Masuavio maybe not even making the start of the year, that's a decent pickup. Maybe he gets some good playing time with a good offense. They just picked up Kenneth Walker as a Super Bowl MVP, so I think that's an absolute problem. The Chargers go Akeem Mesidor, the Miami edge. I kind of liked him over Bain Jr. I think obviously everybody's compensating for Bain Jr. in every game at Miami, but you also have Mesidor, so maybe it has something to do with that, but we'll find out. A team that really just needed to win big games last year, and the Chargers could not. Jake Slaughter, center out of Florida, and then Brennan Thompson, Mississippi State receivers, 5'9", 164, but he ran a 4.26 40. 4 of their last 5 picks were on linemen, 3 offensive linemen and 1 defensive lineman. So they're obviously trying to figure the offensive line out for sure. The Rams go Ty Simpson out of Alabama. They allegedly called Stetson and Matthew Stafford, figured it out, told them they were going to be drafting him. Max Clare, Ohio State receiver, and tight end. So maybe giving up on Tyler Higbee finally. I wouldn't be running with Tyler Higbee anyways, but it ain't my offense. And then my favorite pick of the Rams was C.J. Daniels, wide receiver out of Miami. I don't understand why he dropped to the 7th. Maybe he got hurt, but I think he was all up in some massive games for the Hurricanes last year. Fernando Mendoza, who was the first overall pick, by the way, for the Raiders. Enough said about him. If you don't know him, you need to. He is an absolute problem. Traydon Stokes, safety out of Arizona, nickelback, 99th percentile in cornerback speed. He was the absolute fastest cornerback when it came to any other safety or cornerback in this draft. K'Ron Crawford, edge out of Auburn. I think him on the other side of Max Crosby, he's with great company. He's going to figure some stuff out. He is a big guy. And then they go Jamad McCoy, cornerback out of Tennessee, who is, rumor has it, has absolutely no ACL. There is a massive problem with his injury that nobody picked him up until the 4th. And then they go Mike Washington, Mike Washington Jr., running back out of Arkansas, who, as I mentioned earlier, was Taylor Green's running back. He is Sonny Michel, part 2. I enjoyed watching his tape. He is a 6'1", 223-pound, strong, fast guy, paired with Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers, and yeah, I think they're going to figure some stuff out here. I really enjoyed the Raiders draft. I think maybe they're my second favorite draft. I gave them an A-. The Miami Dolphins, who everyone is gone, Tua, Waddle, and Tyreek are all gone. They have got to figure out some stuff on offense, and they are going for it. They got Caden Proctor, offensive tackle out of Alabama, 6'6", 350, a big man who is athletic and fast, can make some of these big man plays on offense if they drop some plays. Chris Johnson, San Diego State cornerback, 4 interceptions, 2 of them were pick sixes in 25 alone. He ran a 4.4 40, so he's not too terribly fast, but obviously he's got some hands on him. Jacob Rodriguez and Caleb Douglas, linebacker and wide receiver out of Texas Tech, who was one of my favorite offenses in the league last year. So Douglas, the 6'3", 206-pound receiver. Jacob Rodriguez, though, is my favorite pick for them alone. Just they've got to figure out that defense. They had 70 points scored on them last year. That's a problem. Jacob Rodriguez, though, 4 picks and 7 forced fumbles last year. He's a turnover producer, an absolute turnover manufacturer. They go tight end Will Kakmarak. I think that's how you pronounce his name. 6'5", 261-pound blocker. They had what is his name? Darren Waller come back last year off of injury. So with an off season of healing up, I think Darren Waller is going to be a problem. They go Chris Bell, receiver out of University of Louisiana. Louisville. 6'1", 220, coming off an ACL problem. I don't really believe in that pick, and then Trey Moore, anybody who came off this Texas defense, and not really the offense, but the defense in the last year and this year, I do like. He's a little bit shorter, 6'2", 240 pounds, so he's like a ball. But this Texas defense is an absolute problem. The Vikings, next, they went defense heavy. They went defensive tackle, linebacker, defensive tackle, safety. They get Caleb Banks out of Florida, 6'6", 327 pounds. Had a foot problem, so I don't understand the first round pick on it. He is a massive human being. As I mentioned earlier, they normally have some foot problems. They go Jake Galladay, linebacker out of Cincinnati, former defensive end, middle linebacker, 104 tackles. He was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school, so second round pick, man. Congratulations, dude. You fucking did that shit. Dominique Orange, defensive tackle out of Iowa State. Not too much to write home, average nose tackle. I just really wanted to say his name. Dominique Orange. That's pretty fucking dope. Caleb Tierman, offensive tackle out of Northwestern, 6'8", possibly moved to guard to be able to start off rip. Just is honestly up to him. Jacoby Thomas, safety out of Miami, who is trouble in space. Can't really keep up with a guy when they're shifty, but over the top, he's got it locked down. New England Patriots, I gave them a B-. Caleb Lumu, offensive tackle out of Utah, pass blocker, 6'6", 313 pounds. Gabe Jackas, Illinois edge rusher, who's a wrestling champion at 6'4", 260. So I think he's going to be able to get around some of these offensive linemen, especially in this division. Eli Raridan, Notre Dame tight end, 6'6", 245. He's a blocker. With Hunter Henry and all the guys they have up there, they really don't need much. They're going to need help with blocking, with how much Drake May was running for his life in the Super Bowl. They pick up Baron Morton in the 7th. I think that's a steal. And Jam Miller also in the 7th. Baron had a problem in the playoffs, had an absolute terrible playoff game, and couldn't do shit. But he was my favorite quarterback all year last year. I will not go back on my word. I think maybe he'll be all right, but I do not think that he will be giving Drake May a run for his money. I like Drake May as well. New Orleans Saints, who Tyler Shuff did okay last year. They pick up Jordan Tyson, Arizona State, coming off an ACL, collarbone, and hamstring injury in college. Don't understand the first round pick. I definitely would be staying away from a guy like that, but high risk, high reward. Chris Olave in the offense last year has had so many freaking concussions. Got to figure some stuff out. Christian Miller, defensive tackle out of UGA. He is a is the only comp that I will give you in this whole thing is Kenny Clark. I did like that comparison. He is a round nose. Oscar Delp, tight end out of UGA. He is not Brock Bowers, but he is extremely good. He makes big plays. I think he's going to give Tyler Shuff a receiving threat. On top of that, they picked up Bryce Lance, who is Trey Lance's brother. Not really the greatest, but, brother is in the league. Believe he's a Dallas Cowboy right now. And then Barry Brown, return guy, 6 kick returns for a touchdown in college. Next, we have the New York Giants. Arvell Reese, cornerback out of Ohio State, 6'4", 241 pound, 4'6", 40. Easily could have been a top 2 or 3 pick. I think they could have gone a couple of people here. Francis Maugu, offensive tackle out of Miami, 6'5", 329 pound, all around offensive lineman, can kind of just play everywhere. Offensive tackles are very agile. They can definitely move around more than a guard can, up and down the line. Colton Hood, cornerback out of Tennessee, good in man and zone. I think he's just a steal for the second round. On a wide receiver, Malachi Fields out of Notre Dame, 6'4", 218 pound. Good release to get open. He's got, good moves out of in space. New York Jets. My New York Jets go David Bailey, edge out of Texas Tech. Over Arvell Reese, he ran a 4.440 and had 14.5 sacks last year. Like I said, they could have been either one. Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon, 4.440. He's built like a freaking brick house. He's on top of jumping a 43.5-inch vertical and a 6'3", 241 pound receiving tight end. I think this is a great pick. Omar Cooper, wide receiver out of Indiana. I think Surratt was a better receiver out of that offense, but and then D'Angelo Pons, another Indiana player who had the pick to seal the natty for the Hoosiers. Darnell Jackson Jr., 6'5", 315 pound nose tackle out of Florida State, and Cade Klubnik, quarterback out of Clemson in the 4th round, who had some problems. I'm not gonna lie, I was not too sold on your boy, but yeah, we're gonna keep it pushing. Okay, yeah. And then we got the Philadelphia Eagles. Mekhi Lemon, receiver out of USC, who I mentioned earlier, pumps out receivers right now. They've got Drake London, they've got Amon Ra, his brother. I think they're really putting out some good receivers. Good through traffic route runner, 5'11", 191. Not the size that you're really looking for in a over the middle type of guy, but speedy. Eli Stowers, Vandy tight end, 6'4", 239 pound, 45.5-inch vertical at 240 pounds, 11 foot 3-inch broad jump. Those are ridiculous numbers for that size. With Dallas Goedert getting a little bit older, that is a problem. A.J. Brown probably gone as well. They go Markel Bell, offensive tackle out of Miami, 6'9", 346 pounds. On the same offensive line as Lane Johnson. That's a big offensive line. I gave them an A-. They've got to figure out their scuffles in the locker room. That's what the damn problem is with the Philadelphia Eagles right now, is they hate each other. I think with A.J. Brown gone, like I just told a couple of people last year, there is something that happens with receivers when they get into the city of Philadelphia and play for the Eagles. They turn into the biggest diva. You've got Terrell Owens. You've got Shannon Sharp was the same way. You have there was another one. Who was it? Chad Ochocinco. I mean, they all just wild. And they add A.J. Brown to it. Max Ehananker, Arizona State offensive tackle, 4 years of football, only ran a 4.41 40. Jeremy Bernard, who a lot of people are liking him. I don't really trust Jeremy Bernard. He obviously made some big plays at Alabama. Maybe I have a little, sour taste in my mouth from his game against Georgia. Drew Aller, quarterback out of Penn State. They're taking a chance on him, staying in state once again, like they did with Kenny Pickett. Inconsistent in big games, 48 to 50% completion in the top 5 games. The kid just kind of can't play in big games. Maybe he's just not good. Dalen Everett, cornerback out of Georgia. This is the only pick that I'm going to tell you is a risk for anybody coming out of Georgia. I didn't really trust Dalen when he was at Georgia. I think he has phenomenal potential. He's 6'1", 196 pounds. That's a size for a cornerback. He's long. He tends to get picked on, and he tends to get beat when he gets picked on. I think they've got Joey Porter Jr. over there. They've got Minka. They've gotten some stuff. Maybe some guys around him that can help him figure it out. But if you can't figure it out while you're at Georgia, I don't really know. Now, he did go in the 3rd round. They also pick up Jennings Dunker, offensive tackle out of Iowa. Possible move to guard. Like I said earlier, any linebacker coming out of Iowa, it's a pretty good chance to take. So good draft out of the Steelers. A lot of chances they've taken. They got a new regime with Mike Tomlin gone. Seattle Seahawks coming off of a Super Bowl win, guys. Losing Kenneth Walker III to the Chiefs. Jadarian Prince, running back out of Notre Dame, does have some fumble problems. He was slightly sharing a backfield with Jeremiah Love. They got Bud Clark, safety out of Texas Christian University, possible nickelback. Kobe Bryant replacement. They did lose a safety. And then Julian Neal, quarterback out of Arkansas, run coverage, 6'2", 203 pounds. That is massive for a cornerback. So, going to be fun to see him. San Francisco 49ers, who a lot of people said was the worst draft in the entire draft. I think they took some chances. I did give them a C+. We've got, and they had no first round picks. 2nd round, they go Dejon Stribling, who a lot of people said could have gone 5th or 6th or maybe even 7th. This is a good receiving core coming out of Ole Miss. I think it's a good offense. They went Romello Heights, Texas Tech edge, #1 rush defense in the league. Absolute problem. And Kalen Black, who I believe is kind of a perfect fit to go with Christian McCaffrey. Indiana, national championship winning running back. I think he could be a Sonny Michel type guy too, who is a 2-time Super Bowl champion who was slightly sharing a backfield with Nick Chubb. So, Bucks go Reuben Bain Jr., edge out of Miami, 6'2", 262 pound. Guys, he fell a little bit, but not too much. He did have the off-the-field stuff. We're not going to get into politics. Said we weren't getting into politics. Josiah Trotter, linebacker out of Missouri, was a very good defense in Missouri. They go receiver out of Georgia State, Ted Hurst, 6'4", 206 pound. Mike Evans replacement. Did get rid of Mike Evans. Going to take a lot for him to replace Mike Evans. It's going to take him some years. And then Keontae Scott, Miami cornerback, was a absolute problem. Was involved in a lot of plays. A good nickelback can come in and play down. Tennessee Titans, they go Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State, 6'2", 292 pounds. Keldrick Falk, edge out of Auburn, 6'5", 226 pounds, 20 years old. He'll be with Jermaine Johnson, definitely going to help him figure out some stuff. Anthony Hill Jr., another guy from this Texas defense who I absolutely loved. And then Nicholas Singleton out of Penn State, 5.5 yards per carry last year, 6 foot, 219 pound. He's good in the pass blocking situations too, so he can ship. And then finally, we have the Washington Commanders, y'all. Linebacker out of Ohio State, 6'5", 244 pound. Ran a 4.46 40, had a 43.5-inch vert, and then 11 foot 2-inch broad jump. Antonio Williams, wide receiver out of Clemson. I think him and I won't be able to think of his name right now. Clemson had some decent wide receivers this last year. They've got another kid that's going to come out this next year who is an absolute problem. Real good football name too, as it slips through my head. Led Clemson in receptions the last 2 years. Williams did. Joshua Joseph, edge out of Texas, not fast enough, probably going to be a role player. And then Katron Allen, back up to, he was Nick Singleton's backup. I mean, just not going to be any type of threat. I think they got Brian Robinson. I think maybe go get somebody in free agency, maybe trade. I don't know. But with that being said, my favorite draft, guys, honestly, is the Panthers. I think that with what they look like, the Eagles made some good picks. Obviously, the Raiders fill in some of the questions they've had on offense. And the Giants are going to be a problem. But honestly and truly, I really hate to say it, the Dallas Cowboys did a good draft, had a decent draft this year, guys. And we need to be on the lookout. My Super Bowl pick I'll keep until the first video of the season. I think we're going to go a little hard this year. I think we're going to do NFL and college. We might lean on the NFL a little bit more, honestly. We'll do quick college, maybe SEC. But, guys, we're back. We are back in it. We got hella baseball to talk about, NBA playoffs. So, expect another video here in the next few days. Doses.